Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Crunching Your Growth. I'm your host, Phil Masiello, and today we're going to talk about one of the biggest challenges founders face as they grow, which is becoming the bottleneck in their own business. I mean, it happens all the time. I see it, our guest sees it. So, we're going to talk about that and how to overcome it. At the beginning, being involved in everything when you're an entrepreneur, it feels necessary. We've all been there. You got to do everything. But as you start to make decisions and solve problems and manage the people and improve the work, and then you want to keep the business moving. But at some point, the very drive that helps you build a company can become the thing that allows you to go into the death spiral, because there comes a point in time when you have to let go, or you have to build the processes and the systems and build a team that can carry you forward, because you don't want to be building a business while you're the person that everybody has to come to. So my guest today is Jordan Solender. He's an entrepreneur, he's a business optimization expert, he's the founder of Solender Capital, and he's known as the Bottleneck Breaker. I like that term because you always think about breaking bottles. Anyway, and he helps founder-led companies remove operational bottlenecks so owners can move from overwhelmed operators to confident leaders. And he's generated over 40 million in revenue across multiple industries, which is a feat unto itself. He's worked with organizations such as Apple, Samsung, U.S. Department of Defense. He's built several successful exits, including an 8-figure technology firm sale. So his core philosophy is simple: pick one thing, remove yourself. So today we're going to talk about systems, delegation, automation, how founders can finally build businesses that run without them being trapped in every decision. So, Jordan, thanks for taking the time to come on. Welcome. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us and talking about what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure, Phil. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I've always wanted to say that on the podcast. Very, very excited. Talk about breaking some bottles, man. Solving challenges that most entrepreneurs are facing these days, and it's a hot topic right now. So it's exciting to talk about.
It's always a hot topic. I tell the story on here. I've told it a couple of times, but I'm just going to do it real quick. We had this company that came to us about 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe, yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago. A guy, founder, started the company. He had did wholesale, and he as well as built a retail brand, and same product line. It was in the food business, and he went from like 0 to 25 million really quickly. And then he sort of stagnated and he was stuck. And he called us up because he thought he had a marketing problem. And he was like, I went through 3 marketing firms. And as soon as somebody tells me that they went through 3 or 4 marketing firms, I know there's a bigger problem. So I said,
Yep.
look, before we get started and get engaged, we went through the whole song and dance about what we could do for him. I said, before we do that, I said, can we do a 2-day offsite? I said, I'll put on my coaching hat because I think there's a bigger problem. And we did a 2-day offsite. And within the first day, he had hired this guy that I knew of. I didn't know him personally, but this guy was a powerhouse. I mean, this guy could sell snowballs to Eskimos, and he knew everybody in the industry. And I said, David, why don't you think you can make progress? And he said, I can't, because the founder wants to be on every single phone call with every single prospect. He said, so I'm not managing to the prospect schedule. I'm managing to his schedule. And he's running the warehouse. He's running operations. He's running marketing. He's running financing. He said, it's virtually impossible. And we spent the rest of the 2 days discussing that whole topic and how to get him off of it. And once we did, I mean, I think it was 4 years ago, they've gone from that 25 million to almost $50 million in sales, and they're still growing. But it took us 2 days to get him off and he still wasn't convinced. He did it. He went kicking and screaming, but he wound up doing it. And then once he saw the progress, then then he realized it. So I think that's a good segue into sort of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, the moment everything has to run through you, growth caps, right?
Right.
And that's like a very perfect story for this, and a great example. So that's why I'm obsessed, really obsessed with SOPs, accountability, AI driven systems. You got to build a business that can execute without your constant presence. And some people learn the hard way in an offsite, right?
Some
That's how
people
it
never
goes.
learn. Some people never learn. You know.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I tell the other story I tell is that I built my first business when I was 27 years old, and it was a failure. And it wasn't a failure because the business model was bad, or it was a retail store, or because the location was bad, or any of that. That was actually great. It was a failure of leadership and a failure of process management. Everything had to run through me. And in my head at that time, in my youth, in my naivete, I believe that that's how entrepreneurs should act. And it took me, after the business failed, I sold it, and I went to graduate school, and not because I felt I needed more education, but I needed to think differently. And it really literally took me 2 years to really recognize the fact that it was me that was the problem. Nothing else. It was me.
Yeah, one of the things that I think entrepreneurs probably have a problem with is that they think being involved in everything means they care more. But in
Yeah.
reality, it actually means they haven't built systems people can win inside of. So for me specifically, it's very similar to your stories, both stories. That shift changed everything, right? I stopped trying to be the hero and I started building process SOPs and teams that could operate without me.
Yeah.
And now with AI and the boom of AI, I mean, it's wild. Literally on a daily basis, I'm finding new tools that can replace my decision making ability or advance my team's decision making and empowerment when they make decisions to do their jobs. And you can scale that thinking even faster, faster than we've ever moved ever. And AI becomes the assistant to the operator, not the replacement for the operator. So it's really fascinating to see this trend we have right now of breaking owners out of their day to day to work on true CEO and strategy time as opposed to operational time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that AI becomes exciting when it's used in the right way. I think there's a lot of people that still don't understand it, still don't use it correctly, uh, and
Yeah.
and so therefore they don't get the benefit of it. But why don't you take us back? While we're getting started, take us back to how you started, what you've done in your past, and sort of build that whole story about who you are.
Absolutely. So I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad was a franchise guy. His dad owned a dental practice. My dad did his big successful exit when he turned 50. He's been retired in Florida, in West Palm Beach ever since. That's where good Jewish retired business owners go. And and it's funny, hearing his story, and he's watching me do my thing now, and I love being an entrepreneur. But my first venture into a business was he bought me a snowblower that I had to finance from him at 16. And I would go around the neighborhood and I had accounts and I would check with people before the first snowfall. And we had people lined up on a wait list. These were the houses we hit. This is the money we charged. Discount if you stayed with us. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It turned into starting a DJ business, and I owned and started three separate wedding and corporate event DJ companies.
Jeez.
Yep, had my first exit on a wedding DJ company back in 2016. Started another one. The one I currently have now does well over 1,000 events a year.
Jeez.
We're well into the seven figures, and I mean just weddings alone in that niche in the DC metro area, we're doing about 480 weddings a year.
Yeah.
So that a lot of different businesses, different verticals. I almost never do the same thing twice. So got into IT right out of college, though. Worked for Apple, worked for Dell, Symantec, covered DoD and federal before I started my first IT reseller, which I exited in 2023. So different verticals, different models, B2C, B2B, different funnels. And now I'm at a place where I'm doing coaching, very similar to you, looking at brands, looking at business models, and entrepreneurs typically in the 1 to 10 million range that are stuck and they just need some help.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't usually have coaches on the program, just because, not because I have a problem with conflict, but usually most of them are more theoretical and not actual. And so, you have credibility, and so that to me is a lot better because, and I always say to people, would you rather climb Mount Everest with a guy who read a book about mountains, or with a guy who's gone up the mountain several times, felt the thin air, looked down the crevices and all that stuff. So, I think it's a lot different. The people, when I coach with them, when I coach them and I talk to them, it's really it's on a different level than normal, because I can say, even with the agency, like with some of our clients, I'll say, no, you don't want to do that, because if you do that, it's going to cost you money. I'm going to tell you why I did it, and this is how much it cost me, and I don't think you should do it. So
Yeah.
it's even in the agency side, we're coaching people. So
Well, having a coach is truly a cheat code. I don't know how to explain it. So it's the same reason I joined EO and YPO. Being around other entrepreneurs, being somebody that genuinely just cares about your success, which what a coach is doing, right? They're helping you hit goals. They're pushing you into your uncomfort zone, because success comes from being uncomfortable,
sure,
right? If you stay comfortable, you're just going to stay in the place that you've always been, right? But advancing in your career, success, it comes from being that in that uncomfortable position. But I think what you're saying though is the difference between information and pattern recognition.
yeah,
That's how I put it. It's a real operator can save you years because they've already paid the stupid tax.
yeah, yeah,
They've they've hired we have hired the wrong people. We've had coups staged, I'm sure, right? There's salespeople that think they could do it better. We've built the wrong systems. We've ignored SOPs. We've held on too long, and that's a huge part of my coaching. It's not theory. It's here's the bottleneck. Here's the system. Here's the delegation structure, and here's where AI fits. Go execute. Have true CEO time. Actually lead this company now. And I'm sure you feel the same way. You come in and you usually you're not diagnosing problems anymore, which is how I feel. It's more I'm just trying to figure out what version of the problem they have.
yeah. Oh, no question about it. You're basically saying, hey, look, well, at least in my head, what happens is somebody talks to me, and then I think, oh, I faced that problem two or three times in my successes and my failures. And then I sort of, talk to them about it. I don't ever want to give somebody the answer. I don't really coach that way where I say this is what you have to do. What I try and do is say this is the process you have to follow in order for you to be successful. These are the measurement KPIs that you want to look at, right? But I can't like say, hey, the only time I did it, I have a guy who came to me about a year ago, and his business was changing. He was in the they did hearing aids, and
Mhm.
it was mostly going out to managed care facilities and doing it. And his business was dependent upon Medicaid or Medicare, whichever one that is. And that was changing. The way that the billing was changing, and he was in a panic because it was going to change his cash flow structure. They were going to they were going to throttle down the payments. His profit was going to go away. And we sat down in the first meeting. I said, think about what you have. Think about what you built, because he had a substantial business. I said, you built a system. I said, that system can be redeployed into another segment. I said, you don't have to go after Medicaid. You have the system. Go into private pay. Go into, the higher end uh, um, independent or assisted living facilities that are private pay. Don't worry about Medicaid and Medicare so much. And it, like, the light bulb went off. He puts the structure together. He goes out and does it. And we were talking every 2 weeks, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable!" It's that was the only time I told somebody what to do.
I mean, yeah, but you just freaking nailed it, man. That's such a powerful mindset because most founders think their business is the product, and it's not. And I almost want to shake founders that feel this way. The business is the system.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it for people in the back of your podcast. The business is the system, right? It's
exactly.
what you've already built. So if you can build customer acquisition, operations, fulfillment, and delivery once, you can redeploy it into new markets over and over again. This is a repeatable process,
Yep.
right? Repeatable process scales, right? If it's not repeatable, it doesn't scale. And that's why I'm so big on, I mean, I'm going to say, you're going to hear me say it 10 more times throughout this podcast, but documenting SOPs and operationalizing knowledge. AI makes that so much more accessible and scalable now because you can capture how the business works and how the business thinks, not just what it does.
Right.
There's just no reason, there's just no excuse anymore not to have knowledge transfer and sharing among your team and just correctly deploying process. There's just no excuse anymore.
I think you're 100% correct. There's no excuse, but sometimes it's really difficult to get through to somebody who is convinced that what they're doing is correct, and they just continue to do what they've always done, no matter what you show them. Okay. No matter what.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you this example, and it's a live example.
please.
I have this company that developed this new electric shaver, right? And I said, hey, we don't, the whole point was we don't have the money to go out and do what needs to be done with this, but we can partner with somebody. I said, okay, great. I got them an audience with the head of shaving for Philips, electric shaving,
Huge.
Philips. We went to the Netherlands, met with them. They liked the product in theory. They loved it. They tested it. They said there's a flaw in the product. Didn't test well. But that's okay. We're still interested. We just think you need to do this, 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 and this. And the engineer who had developed it said, they don't know what they're talking about. Didn't make a change. And he convinced the founder that they didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'm like, look, and so I'm trying to help them. So I get them an audience with the president of Braun USA Men's, part of Procter and Gamble.
Huge companies.
He says, right, says, I like the product. Well, you think about it, right? You look at how companies innovate today, like Pepsi Cola bought Poppy, right? Because they can't innovate to come up with a new product. So they invested early on, but then they kept their ties and they knew they were going to acquire it. So I was taking the same approach to help them. So, get them this. The guy looks at it and he says, okay, here's what you're going to be up against, and here's what you have to think about. We walked out of the meeting, engineer and the CEO, they don't know what you're talking about. Like, you got to be kidding me. So I started bringing marketers in to talk to them. This is what you're going to be up against. This is the message. This is this. No. Now they only want to sell the razor, the shaver. They don't want to sell the skincare products, the attachments. They just think that they can sell the shaver, right? One price, $69. I said, your cost of acquisition in that category is going to be $45 to $50. You're never going to make money. You need the recurring revenue. You need to be, that's the whole point of it, right? No. So they start going down the path, and like I've got expert after expert after expert coming in to talk to them. They don't want to change. And they're still out there doing the same thing and still losing money and still complaining about it. And I go, there's nothing I can do to help you.
I mean, that's founder ego disguised as conviction. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if I've heard a better example that I could even tell. I mean, right there, that's why coaching matters. Sometimes the breakthrough isn't the strategy; it's getting the founder out of their own freaking way, man. That's ego right there. There's nothing else I can comment on. It's just that's ego. That's crazy. That's
That is.
crazy. Those
It's
are big
absolutely.
audiences. Like, good for you going to bat for these guys. That's
You
awesome.
know, look, I was in the shaving business myself, and I had, we had a great relationship with Energizer. They owned Schick, and that's who gave us our razor. So I made a lot of connections in that business because we were trying to do things. And I'm of the firm belief that when somebody is the head of something like that and says, this is what you need to do, I listen, right? I listen. I may only take 90% of it, but I pay attention. It's one thing I'm
Well,
good at.
remember, they've already paid the stupid tax.
Right.
It's the same principle. We're just
Yeah.
talking about a bigger scale.
Yeah. I paid the stupid tax in the in the shaving business. It took us 2 years to break through. The first 2 years, I was doing stupid things, and and I'm not ashamed of all the stupid tax I've paid in my life. I talk regularly about the stupid tax things, and that I've done. You know,
So there's something I say to all my coaching clients, specifically when we get to. So I do 6 month engagements typically, and we go in with a goal and we set a scope and we say these are the goals. Usually, once we accomplish like the big goals, the foundational ones, like we need a new CRM or we need to automate this or inject AI here, we start focusing on funnel.
yeah,
And I get this. It's the same conversation every single time. The past, couple years, it's what if it doesn't work? And I'm like, It's not you win or lose, it's you win or you learn, and then we move on to the next thing, and you keep going. Like, that's what makes you an entrepreneur. It's you win or you learn. It's not what if it doesn't work. It's you got the chops for this, man. You already built a business. You've already showed me you have the chops. So
Yeah.
let's win or learn and
Yeah.
keep moving.
That's a good way of putting it, win or learn, because
Yeah,
everybody always thinks about the failure. And I say, you never fail, you just learn, you know?
correct. It's I mean, look, I've had my share of failures. To say to any coach who has the chops, as you kind of put it earlier, right? Who has done it in not in just in theory, but in actuals. To say a coach like that doesn't have failures would blow me away. Show me a coach that doesn't, or an entrepreneur doesn't have any failures. I'm going to show you something that maybe we should be looking at with a microscope. So it's you win or you learn. There's always something to learn about what you just did that didn't work, and you're going to take it, you're going to reshape it, you're going to package it up and do it a different way, and run it back and keep running it back until it hits. That's
Yeah.
what it is. That's the game we're playing, Phil. Right? Like that's the entrepreneurial game. It's not even about the product. And when you really go high level with it, and what excites me about it, as you can see, I get kind of worked
Yeah.
up about it. It for me, the fun is in the build.
Yeah.
And I say that in almost every single initial call that I take. The fun is in the build. I don't care what the product is. I want to see and attempt the challenge of getting this to market, building that funnel out, trying out this ad strategy. Oh, Facebook rolled out Andromeda. Cool. Let's go learn that and see how we can either automate it, inject AI into it, or replicate it. You win or you learn. And it's that premise won't change no matter how advanced AI gets or whether Terminator comes about. It's just you win or you learn.
Right.
So
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, I like the challenge every day of just like you said, because every day it's a new day. Things are changing so rapidly. Things that worked 2 years ago are not working today. Things that worked a year ago are not working today. We didn't have, Amazon's changed their AI search model 4 times in the last 2 years. And they just did it again with Alexa, so they got away. They scrapped the one that they had built, like, that went live a year ago. So I mean, things are changing, and you have to learn something new. And so things don't always work the way that they work, but that's what keeps you thinking and being creative and trying to figure out what you need to do and how to break through. If it was just the same constant, it'd be pretty darn boring every day if you just said, oh, here's what works and let's go do this. And then, that's the process, and see you later.
I mean, but that's what keeps entrepreneurship so addictive.
Yeah.
The game keeps changing, and the founders that win today aren't the ones that are clinging on to what worked 5 years ago. They're the ones building these insane AI brains and N8N workflows and leveraging AI and making decisions quickly. And that is actually what I think is compressing this learning curve in entrepreneurship so much. I gave a talk in Ireland about a month ago. I'm an EO, so I went
Yeah.
to the Global Leadership Conference for EO in Ireland. And I was giving a talk about membership and how we're leveraging AI in membership in the DC chapters in the region on the East Coast. And it's very apparent to me that just entrepreneurs in general are being sorted into these buckets of learning AI or resisting AI, and it's especially compressing this learning curve. The advantage now goes to the operator who can document, delegate, and iterate faster than anybody else. And it wasn't always like that. It used to be that if your product was so good, it kind of almost didn't matter if you were good or not because your product being so good would force you to get better. But now it's about the systems, and the better your systems are, your product could be shit. and but if you're getting more volume and exposure and keeping up with the trends faster of the marketing and the funnels, you I mean, hard work beats talent, right? I mean, isn't that what most people say? I'm a big believer in that. Hard work beats talent every single time. And the AI curve is compressing this more than we've ever seen it, ever, at least in
Yeah.
my lifetime.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, you know, I think you're 100% right that AI is sort of becoming two different buckets of the people who embrace it or figure out how to use it to get to what they need, or the people who are resisting it. But I also think there's a middle bucket of people who think they know AI and aren't using it correctly and use just the LLM model and think that they're using AI and they're not doing anything with it. I'll never forget, we one of the problems that we face on the agency side when we take on a new client to do advertising is you got to sort. They've been advertising for years. You got to pull all that data, and you have to sort of figure out what they did in the past, what worked, what didn't work. And it was grueling, really ridiculous. And Brian, one of my partners, came to me and he said, look, I found this product. It's an AI product. You can dump your spreadsheets into it, and it's see if it works. And it was unbelievable. It took about 35 minutes. I dumped just raw data into it. 35, 40 minutes later, it came back with just a pathway to success for ads. And I thought it was fantastic. And from then on, the data analytics became really my foundation for what I used AI for. And then, the systems just kept getting better and better and better. And then we started getting into creating content with it and using it for ideation and those types of things. And then we started getting into workflows and agents about 3 years ago. And that just sort of changes everything, because when you think about, even if everybody hears this, oh, AI is going to take my job or AI is going to take jobs. It's not. What's going to happen is I don't want to do certain tasks. I don't like doing them. I don't like doing basic mundane tasks. It bores me and it hurts my head. And so I can build agents to do these little tasks that I didn't want to do, which keeps me focused on what the real goal is, which is to grow the business and to figure
Sure.
out how to put these agents together to help me grow the business, right? And help make the business more profitable. And that to me is the beauty of AI.
Yeah. The second brain theory doing a lot of the tasks for you is huge and makes a huge difference, especially with those mundane tasks. Um, it's not replacing entrepreneurs; it's removing friction.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
In the best cases are exactly what you're talking about. It's not a flashy case. It's taking a 20-hour analysis process and turning it to 30 minutes. It's building agents around SOPs that are handling reporting, delegation, follow up, and operational tasks. So the humans in your business can stay focused on strategy and decision making. Um, I was on a podcast like 2 weeks ago, and somebody literally said to me, "Do you think AI is coming for our jobs?" Like you just said, and I'm so sick and tired of this question. But at the same time, it's like AI might take your job if you don't learn how to leverage it.
Right, right.
I'm tired of like placating to people that are so scared about it. It's learn it. Like
Yeah.
this is happening. That's like saying I'm going to deny using electricity when the light bulb was invented.
Yeah.
I just it's here. Learn how to use it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people using Cobalt. When Java came out, or I don't want to use Excel. I rather use a whatever Abacus. Yeah, adapt. Yes, Excel is going to take your job. It's the same thing. We have these certain points in history that will completely change the workforce as we know it. This is one of those inflection points. Honestly, I'm surprised it's taking as long as as it has to have these monster layoffs that are happening. Um, what's a really interesting thing to talk about though? I don't know if if you've talked to anybody about outplacement yet. Like this subcategory of companies that are just like making a killing on all these layoffs
Hmm.
because of AI.
I have not.
Oh, that can be for a separate day then. But that's a pretty wild thing to watch right now in the market.
Well, I was actually talking to somebody the other day. I mentor at University of Maryland
Hmm.
School of Entrepreneurship, and this young person came, and you can book a time, and you can just chit chat, get some direction. And she said, I'm a creative person, and I'm worried that my skill set isn't going to be used well in the generation of AI. And I said, I totally disagree with you. I said, because, AI needs somebody to tell it what it needs to do. And creativity is one of the forefronts. I just read that Anthropic is hiring copywriters. They're hiring copywriters because they know AI can generate the copy, but it can't go and do what it needs to do to make it as appealing as it needs to be. And so they're hiring copywriters and paying $300,000 to $400,000 a year. Well, that's talent, that's skill, right? That's creativity. Somebody who's a copywriter is somebody who's creative, right? They're doing the same thing on the um, on the video and the image creation side.
Mhm.
So, that's where your creativity comes into play. And what you're doing is you're going to wind up these people are going to wind up guiding AI into a better solution, right? So that's really, and I think that all the layoffs were sort of people doing mundane tasks and not the tasks
Yep.
that can bring a business forward, and not and those people I don't think could be retrained to use AI to get the business to move forward. Right.
That's an interesting that there's a lot of strings we could pull here. Wow. I mean, but to the entrepreneurship story of that young lady, right? Like AI amplifies talent. It
Yep.
doesn't create talent. So the best copywriters, to your point, operators, creatives are becoming even more valuable now because they can execute 10 times faster. A mediocre operator with AI is still mediocre, but a
Right.
great operator with AI becomes, well, I just almost dropped an F bomb. They become crazy dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I tell founders that you got to stop fearing it and start learning to leverage it. Some of the homework that I give. So usually in my one-on-one coaching calls, because I do group coaching and I do one-on-one, depending on the need and what that founder is looking for. In both group and one-on-one, I always give homework. And I say, look, I'm going to do the hard part for you. I'm going to give you the prompt. And I prompt engineer something for them based on their problem or the group lesson that day. And at the end of the prompt, I always say, ask me questions until I feel comfortable with the result.
Yeah.
And I force them to have a conversation with the AI
Yeah.
to keep letting the AI triage back to them and reflect and hold that mirror up until it's good, into
Yeah.
not just good, but great. Because they need to understand how they become dangerous, how they become 10 times what they could be with AI. And like I said, if you're mediocre, you're going to be mediocre with AI. But a good operator, a good leader with AI, that's dangerous, man.
Yeah.
It's cool
No,
to
you're
see.
100%, 100% correct because I we're all using AI to do different things within companies. We don't, and I said this before, we don't use AI to create the video because it's too fake. We don't
Mhm.
use AI to create the image because it's too fake. We still use photography and we still use videography. But what AI is helping us with is coming up with the script and making the script more punchy, right? We do a
Yep.
lot of connected TV advertising, and to come up with the scripts all the time, you get stale because you're dealing with like businesses in the food and the beauty and in personal care and whatever, and your head sort of gets stale. But to be able to use AI and say, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here's how we want to accomplish it, here's what the guardrails are, and then always tell it we want truth and all that stuff, and then it'll come up with some scripts, and then you say, okay, then like you said, you have to go back and say, okay, I like this direction but it needs to be refined a little bit, and boom boom boom, and you come back until you have a script that's about 80% there. And then the human element, the creativity comes into play where the person who's creative can look at it and say, okay, I get it. Let's punch it up a little bit. We employ some comedians. We employ some comedians on online that we always give scripts to and say punch it up, and they do a great job. And because comedy is sort of comedy sells, funny videos
Mhm.
sell. Nobody pays it. Dr. Squatch made its living on funny videos. So
Dr.
yeah,
Squatch, that's a throwback right there. Um, did you
well, they're
take them
still going
did you
strong. I
take
mean,
them to
it's a
Dove?
throwback, but they're still going strong.
Did you take them to Dove and they Dove said, "Here's what you do."
Yeah. Well,
Um,
Dove
I
can't get out of its own way for that stuff.
yeah.
Unilever, you know.
The look, I think you're right. I love that you and I kind of practice what we preach here, both with our clients and in our both our coaching businesses and our main businesses. But I think that's the correct sweet spot for AI right now. It's augmentation, not replacement. And the best creative teams aren't using AI to eliminate creativity, not by a long shot. Your comedian example is a good use case for that. They're using it to beat creative fatigue and help generate angles and hooks and scripts and iterations faster and whatever they may need. But the human still brings taste, emotion, and
Sure.
judgment. And that's why I think that the future is really going to just belong to the companies that combine that human creativity with the AI powered execution. Because AI gets you to the 80%. Great operators and creatives take it to the last 20. So
Yeah.
if that girl is listening that you're still talking to or that you were talking to, that's you're yes, you will be needed. You will be wanted. You will be very valued.
Well, I showed her. I mean, we were sitting there for about, 20 minutes, and I showed her exactly what I was talking about on how to use it creatively. And I'm not creative, but it makes me, AI helps me be creative because it helps me think creatively. But, like I said, in every business, if I hire somebody, or like myself, I'm very numbers
Mhm.
focused, right? I like to analyze the numbers, and I like to spend time looking at the numbers and looking at the KPIs and understanding what they're telling me.
Sure.
But I don't want to be the one to generate the numbers, to try and get them, extract them, do all that, right? We can build an agent today that can go out and pull from the same brand. It can pull Amazon's numbers. It can pull Google's numbers. It can pull Meta's numbers. It can pull from a DSP. It can do all these things, put them together, and sort of, give you an outcome. And then you, as the person, now I saved time. I saved myself probably 4 or 5 hours just
Sure.
on this one client. Now I can sit there and I can spend my time analyzing it, because what the client is paying us for is the result. And I can figure out from those numbers what went wrong, what went right, and what we have to fix. Does AI help me? Sure, it'll help me. It'll help point out things. But at the same time, you can't just rely on it. And you have to look deeper and think about it and then figure out what needs to be done. But the heavy lifting, that 4 hours is tremendous for me, because now I can spend more time focused on the end result, focused on the outcome, focused on developing the outcome.
Yeah, that's a low value work versus high value work. And the
Sure.
high value work there is interpreting that data, making decisions, and telling the client what to do next. And that's where it sounds like you I mean, you have a great process with doing the data analysis on your side on creating that success plan, but that's where AI agents, SOPs, and delegation, they all connect. That's the intersection right there. Building the machine to gather the inputs so the human can focus on the judgment piece and the high value tasks.
Yeah, the client's not paying us for doing the data analytics. The client's paying us for the outcome. They're paying for the high value task, right?
Yep.
And so we're able to do more, and then we could take on more clients, get better results, and everybody's happy and everybody wins. And we just continue that process. But it doesn't mean that I, fired somebody or laid somebody off. I didn't. I haven't laid anybody off. We just are able to do more and do better work than we were before. So yeah, I
Yeah.
I am very I love AI, but in certain, like I said, in certain categories, we're still, I think that eventually, I had this conversation. I did this thing at University UMBC, and there was this guy there who's an engineer, and he asked me if we were doing images with AI, and I told him no, and I showed him why, and he was saying, "I'll come back to you in 2 years, and I guarantee you'll be using it." I said, "You can come back to me in 2 years. The only way we'll use it is if the client says." I want you to use AI to make these images. I said, if not, we will continue to do images. He goes, "No, you're 100% wrong." I said, "Okay." So every week I send them an email now, and I say, still doing it manually, buddy, still making the images. I said, but what we do with AI is, like, we'll say, "Hey, this is what we're trying to achieve," and we'll get a layout. it'll say, do this, have your lighting come in this way. And
Yeah.
it's, that's where it becomes valuable, because then it saves time for the photographer to not have to go in and think about how to stage, set up, do things, set up the lighting. So, I mean, you're using it, but it just, consumers, because we deal with consumer products, consumers are very susceptible to AI, and they feel like if I'm buying your product, it has to be authentic. If you're showing me something fake, then it raises a red flag. And there's a lot of retailers out there today that are a lot of big ones that are pushing back on AI generated content, and obviously the FTC is pushing back on fake UGC content, AI generated UGC content, and you can get fined for it. So,
Yeah.
I
I
think, yeah,
Well, I was going to say, I'd love to get your opinion on something. Being in the advertising space and having such a love for AI like I do. So one of the things that we're running in our business, and we've been experimenting with this over the past couple months. So I have 8 businesses that I'm actively running right now, that
yeah,
I'm the CEO of, and for 5 out of the 8 of them, it typically is an inbound lead. And the inbound lead, gets it. We want them to have a human, like a touch immediately. Can't always be human. What if they, middle of the night, submit a form, right? So we deployed a voice agent,
yeah,
and we've been toying with some of the businesses. We have running an experiment right now, a little bit of an A/B test. The agent calls them on the phone and says, "Hey, this is an AI agent from so and so. I saw you submitted a form. I wanted to help you out. What questions can I answer, or would you like to book a meeting?"
yeah,
Okay. The other agent doesn't say it's an AI agent. We know it is. We're, as consumers, we pick it up immediately, right?
right.
Well, what is the reaction is what we're trying to figure out, when you don't say it. I'm curious, do you feel a certain way when they identify versus they don't identify?
Yeah, well, we've actually done some things, and when you tell somebody that it's an AI agent, they have a different attitude towards it. It's like, okay, let me go through the process. When you
Yeah,
say it's not an AI agent and you just treat it like it's a human, they get frustrated and they get pissed off, right?
yeah. Like
So,
you're trying to trick them or something.
yeah, I'll give
Yeah.
you a perfect, like, I called Verizon the other day, and I had one of my extenders from the Wi-Fi broke, so I called him up, and it was an AI agent. Said, "I'm an AI agent, and I can help you." And so it said, "Let's go through the process." And I said, "Okay," and we went through the process, and then it got to the point where I said, "You're not helping me. I need to speak to a human." And immediately it put me through to a human. And I was fine with that. So I was fine with the whole process. It tried its best, but it couldn't help because there was obviously a problem, along the line. So, and I had a different attitude. If it was just an automated one and didn't say that it was an AI agent and just tried to bluff it as a human, I'd think I would have had a different attitude about it.
Yeah, that's what we're finding. So we're launching into all the voice agent scripts saying like, "Hey, this is an AI agent. This is what we're doing." For instance, I run a master class, a 45-minute master class once a week. We run ads to get attendance to that. As soon as somebody registers for the master class, they immediately get a voice call, and it says, "Hey, this is Jordan Solender's AI agent for his webinar. Just wanted to confirm you got the invite."
Yeah.
And people have been very responsive to that on the recordings that we hear, and it runs quite well.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. If it were me, what I would do is I would go to, like, 11 labs or something and record my
That's what we're
own
using.
voice. And I would say,
Yeah,
this is Phil, and thanks for doing it. This is my AI agent. This is Phil. I did it. I appreciate you signing up, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
yeah.
I think that's perfect. I think it's a perfect way of doing it.
That's actually we are doing it. We're using 11 Labs as the engine. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
would do with my voice. I don't have a problem with so much with the voice agent. I think 11 Labs has this really great voice changer. Like, I can go and record something, and you can pick a different voice, and it'll change it, uh, which helps out on just doing some silly videos on TikTok and stuff. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, the voiceovers and whatnot. Have you, again, this is a whole other thread we could pull. But if you haven't looked at HeyGen yet for video cloning,
no, I haven't. Hey,
oh,
Jen.
Hey, HeyGen. So if you get anybody listening, if you'd like to go to my Instagram to check this out, the last 10 videos are not me.
Oh,
They
wow,
are an AI clone of me.
wow.
And it is My wife has trouble telling. It's very good. I could turn my head totally fine. They put me my assistant will do generate some things and put me in different clothes. It's wild.
I got to check it out because my kids, I did a couple of videos using a cloning thing, and my kids just gave me a whole bunch of crap for it. They were like, "Oh, you got to stop with the AI." But they're college age, and they're like, my daughter is totally against AI. She's like, she hates it. It's like, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's fake. And I had an AI image, which I thought was great. I mean, I thought it looked really good. And it was
Uh-huh.
really just a real image that was cleaned up by AI. And she just yells at me about it. You got to stop that. You got to get rid of it. I'm like, all right, whatever. But I'll check
Yeah.
it out. I'll check
Yeah,
it out.
check it out. Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, we're running out of time. So, any last minute observations, any last minute points you want to get across to young entrepreneurs about what they're doing, what they should be doing,
If,
your website?
sure, yeah. I mean, check out if you're looking for entrepreneurial help, jordansolendercoaching.com. If you just want to learn a little bit more about me, jordansolender.com. Little entry into everything that I'm doing in my life, world, etc. If there are two things I could take away for the entrepreneurs that are already entrepreneuring out there, you win or you learn. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, you're going to learn something and you're going to move on. You're going to retool. You're going to go again. That's for the entrepreneurs that are really finding a passion for running and building businesses. For the ones that think that their business is a snowflake, it's not. It's not. We need to step back. Let's remove our ego, and then that'll allow you to scale, because that's probably what's in your way right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. I love the part about, we learn, right? We do and we learn, because I just had this conversation with somebody the other day where I said, you got to worry, you got to stop worrying about failing, because failing's not it's not what happens. And so I
Correct.
like that whole piece.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's great. Thanks for taking the time to come on, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. And in the meantime, everybody will be on again every week, every Tuesday. But I think every founder listening can relate to this idea that the business starts with your energy, your drive, your decisions. But if you're not careful, it can become completely dependent on you. And like you've heard, I mean, I've made the mistake. I don't know about Jordan, but, and what I really appreciate about the message is that you're not telling founders to, disappear from their companies. You're showing them how to lead better, how to build smarter systems, trust their teams, remove themselves from the parts of the business that no longer require them. And that's where scale begins. So, again, everybody will be back next week with even more information. I hope you got a lot out of this. And if you are looking for Jordan, go to jordansolender.com or jordansolendercoaching.com. And we will see you again next week.
See you, everybody.